The video game modding community is incredibly vast and full of surprises, with many different mods for a variety of games being worked on and released every single day. Some mods focus on improving the experience of a game via tweaks or fixes, some mods focus on creating new ways to play a game such as randomizers, and some mods take things to a whole new level and completely convert the original game into something entirely new. Some of Valve's most popular IPs even started out as mods, Team Fortress and Counter-Strike being good examples. It's always refreshing to see someone in the modding community take an already incredible game and then mold it into something of their own. Which leads me to talk about a mod made for the original Half-Life game called Cry of Fear. Cry of Fear was developed by Team 6 Scala, which was formed by Andreas Ronberg and James Marchant. The mod began its development in 2008, and after 4 years of hard work, the mod was eventually released on the 22nd of February 2012, which it received a standalone version a year later. Which, by the way, this game is completely free, so if you want to play the game for yourself before watching this video, I've left the link to it in the description below. If you were into Let's Plays during the year 2012 and onwards, you probably have already heard of this game, considering that big names such as PewDiePie, Markiplier, and Jacksepticeye have all played it on their channels. I haven't played the game for myself though, neither have I seen much footage of it, but I've always had a great interest of wanting to play the game for myself. So, why don't we go ahead and do that, shall we? Upon starting up the game, the first thing that you are shown is this disclaimer message. This game contains violence and gore and can cause fear, depression, heart failure, and suicide. Users and viewers' discretion is advised. Wow, that's a lot to take in, isn't it? Though I do really like how the message is shown, like how the first Silent Hill and Resident Evil games showed their disclaimer messages. I just thought that was pretty cool. Man, not even a few seconds into the opening and you can already tell how much love and care was put into this game. The cinematography is really well done, especially paired with the beautifully composed opening track. If this is just how the opening is like, you can already tell that we are in for a real treat. Cry of Fear follows the story of a young man named Simon. Not much is known about him, except that he is someone who struggles with mental illnesses such as anxiety and depression.
I've always felt alone. My whole life. For as long as I can remember.
At the start of the game, we watch as Simon walks around the city. But suddenly around the corner, he stumbles across a man crawling on the floor in pain. Simon rushes over to help the man, but as he tries to find out what happened to him, a car crashes right into Simon. Simon wakes up in a room with nothing but a camera. As he looks around, he finds an open door that leads to a dark room with a white cross at the end. Taking a picture of the cross reveals a door leading to another dark room, and as he continues to take pictures of the crosses, he comes to witness many disturbing things, such as words written in blood on the walls, mangled bodies dead yet still moving, and finally as he approaches a far distant cross, a blood-curdling scream echoes from the distance, and as you get closer and closer to the cross, you... Well, that was fucking rude. Simon wakes up from all what seemed to be a nightmare, to find that he is in an alleyway with no clues of how he got there. Seconds after waking up, he receives a text from his mom asking him where he is and that he should start heading home. And from here is when we really start getting a taste of the gameplay. Cry of Fear plays like many other survival horror games. You search around the area looking for puzzles and key items, you solve those puzzles and use those key items to unlock new areas, all while fighting off the many monsters trying to kill you. For most of the game, you explore around a dark city with the purpose of getting Simon home safely. But as we fight our way through the night, there are many questions that need to be answered. Like, how did we get in that alleyway? Why does everything look so abandoned? And most importantly, why the fuck is the bed floating?
Get the fuck down! Fuck you!
I guess the only way to find out is to keep moving forward. Although this game was made as a Half-Life mod, this game doesn't feel like Half-Life at all. In fact, the only way you can really tell this was a Half-Life mod is by either pausing the game or bringing up the developer's console. The controls are pretty stock standard for your PC first-person shooter. You got WASD to move around, you use your mouse to aim, shift to sprint, yada yada yada, you get the idea. But a cool thing about this game is that they've added a few new features that weren't originally in Half-Life. One of the key features added in Cry of Fear is that you can dual-wield items. On one hand, you'll most likely be holding out your phone, which acts as your flashlight, and on the other hand, you'll be holding out your weapon. Though be warned that there are two restrictions that you have while dual-wielding. The first one being that while dual-wielding, you can't reload your weapon. So if you run out of ammo in the middle of a fight, you gotta try and find a safe place or dodge the monster's attacks to try and switch to just your weapon to reload. You could have only your weapon out, but this puts you at a huge disadvantage due to the fact that without your flashlight, it can be pretty hard to see. And considering that enemies can pop out of nowhere, you definitely want to have a clear sight of your surroundings. The second drawback to the dual-wielding system is that the recoil is a lot stronger compared to you just holding out your weapon, which the recoil is already high in this game even without dual-wielding, and this is due to the fact that Simon is just a regular guy without any form of training with firearms. Aside from shooting your firearm though, you can also do a melee attack with the right mouse button, and you can also aim down your iron sights using the middle mouse button. Which I know that these features don't sound like much considering these controls are standard in most FPS games, but in the original Half-Life game you didn't really have any of these features, so the addition of these controls were pretty cool at the time. One important note that you should know though is that reloading in this game doesn't work the same as most shooters. In most games when you reload your weapon while it still has bullets, it refills your magazine with the bullets that you already have. But in this game, if you reload while you still have bullets in your magazine, you pretty much chuck those bullets away with the magazine and you can't get them back. Ammunition in this game can be pretty hard to come by depending on what weapon you are using, so wasting your ammo just like that can put you at a huge disadvantage. I found the combat to be really fun and fast-paced, especially with the inclusion of the dodge. It's also especially handy when you are engaging in fights with your melee weapon. Enemies hit pretty hard though, and it can be pretty easy to lose a lot of health in a short amount of time, especially when you get ganged up on by more than one enemy. But throughout the game you can find morphine syringes lying around on the ground which are used to replenish your health. But be careful of how many syringes you use, cause you can accidentally overdose in the game. Though to be honest, I was never put into a situation where I'd feel like I'd accidentally overdose, but if you do overdose, it doesn't really do much aside from make your vision go blurry for a few seconds, and I guess it's also hard to aim as well.
Hey guys, I don't really feel that good.
The main consequence you have with overdosing though is that you waste a syringe, which is more of a problem as you get later into the game when syringes become way more scarce. Just a quick PSA, please don't inject yourself with anything lying around on the ground. Just don't. Are we clear? Thank you. Aside from looking out for your health, you also have a stamina bar that you need to pay attention to. Stamina runs out very quickly since you use it for actions such as sprinting, jumping, and dodging, and it also takes some time to recover. You can, however, double the speed of your stamina recovery if you stay crouched for a bit, or you can recover stamina with syringes. Though I don't really see the point in wasting a syringe to recover stamina when it already recovers by itself, so I never really did that. Your inventory space is also very limited in this game, with you only having 6 item slots in total. Which doesn't sound too small, but keep in mind that you are carrying things such as weapons, syringes, and most importantly, key items, which all take up space very quickly, and you will have to make decisions on what items you should drop to make space for key items. One of the most important things in your inventory that you should take advantage of is the quick slot system. In the top right of your inventory, you have 3 slots where you can set up items for you to quick select with the 1, 2, and 3 keys. The game doesn't pause when you have your inventory up, so having things such as your weapon, flashlight, and syringes set up is a must-do, which of course can save you on many different occasions. Although some of the mechanics that I just mentioned sound like a bad thing, I personally really liked them. It makes you have to think about things such as what items should I drop to make space for key items, or making the decision of throwing away 3 or 4 bullets to reload, so you are prepared for the next potential fight. I really enjoyed the challenge these restrictions gave me, and I felt like it made the game more interesting. Just like many other horror games, there are a fair few amount of puzzles that you need to solve in order for you to progress. One common problem that I find with a lot of horror games is that the puzzles can either be way too easy and boring, or they can be way too complicated and annoying to solve. But I found that Cry of Fear's puzzles had that perfect balance of not being too overly complicated to figure out, but also had the right amount of difficulty to keep you engaged. One of my favorite puzzles in the game was the Park Statues puzzle. Later on in the game, you get to this park where you have to move 4 of these statues in the right positions in order for you to get to the next part of the game. And your only hints on how to solve the puzzles are these notes written on the map and this compass that gives you an idea of where you should position the statues. I really like this one because it reminded me a lot of the piano puzzle from the first Silent Hill, except a lot easier to solve. Throughout the game, you will fight off many different monsters, ranging from Michael Myers, that bitch from The Ring, children. And many of the monsters in this game are very fast and can be especially dangerous if you get ganged up on. Alright, you little fucks, so here's the deal. You guys leave me alone, and you two don't end up like this fucker down here. You got that thing 1 and 2? Alright, hey! And thanks to your friend's little screw-up, looks like I have no choice but to kill you too! Aside from fighting off your regular monsters, however, there are also a few bosses that you have to fight that all have their own strategies on how to beat them. For example, one of the first bosses in the game that you fight is immune to all of Simon's weapons, and he also kills you in 1 hit. So, how do we beat him, you ask? Well, if you look around the room, you will find 4 of these valves. That, when fully turned, emits an electrical charge through the water in the room, which damages the boss and also you if you don't get out the water in time. So the idea of this boss fight is to lure the boss to another corner of the room, then rush to the valve furthest from him to turn it, and after you've done all that, you gotta make your way to the platform to get out of the water so you don't take damage with the boss. And then you rinse and repeat those steps until he is dead. Man, this game is actually really good at making you feel unsafe. From the sound design making you feel like you are being followed by something, to enemies just popping out of nowhere. Man, I even felt cautious picking up items or entering rooms I've already been in before, cause doing so has a chance of making something happen. One of the scariest experiences in the game are the times when you encounter the enemy known as the Saw Runner. You encounter the Saw Runner a few times throughout your playthrough, and although his encounters are very brief, man does he like to make himself known. The first time you ever encounter him is before you enter the sewers, and although you don't actually meet him at this point, man, the sound of that chainsaw revving behind you is more than enough information for you to want to get the fuck out of there. Oh, and when you finally start getting chased by him, you better hope that you are going the right way, cause if you make the wrong turn, you're fucked. Fuck, oh fuck, oh fuck, oh fuck, oh fuck, oh fuck. Oh. Hello there? Lovely night we're having? Okay, so what if we do this? I'm gonna go this way, and you're gonna stay here. Ah, fuck you. One of the coolest things I found out about Cry of Fear is that many of the places that you go through in the game were modeled after real places, albeit with slight modifications to make the level design smoother. For example, the apartments in the first part of the game are actually modeled after where Andreas's father lives, which I found it really cool seeing both the real location and the game's version side by side. While there are some textures from the original Half-Life in the game, most of the textures were custom-made by Andreas, who went to his capital city Stockholm to take photos around the area to make textures for the game. And the results of him doing all that, as you can see, looks absolutely fucking incredible. Cry of Fear's soundtrack is incredibly well done and does a great job of reeling you into the game's atmosphere. While roaming around the city, the songs can range from being ambient and eerie, to panic-inducing and manic. My favorite songs in the game, though, are the calming guitar tracks that gives you a moment's rest from the panic and horrors, even if it's for a few minutes. Sorta reminds me of the same feeling I get whenever I enter a save room in the Resident Evil games. You just can't help but feel safe whenever tracks like these play. The whole game spans over the course of 7 chapters, 8 depending on what choices you make. Occasionally throughout your playthrough, after witnessing a certain event, or going through a nightmare sequence, Simon will receive a flashback that gives you some insight about his life. At first, these flashbacks may seem confusing, but as you come to witness more and more of them, it is pretty easy to connect the dots and piece together what is going on. There are multiple endings in the game, consisting of 3 bad endings and 1 good ending, which are based around 2 crucial choices that you have to make during your playthrough. I found that getting the good ending is pretty easy to do, but that being said, it can also be very easy to get the bad endings as well. Thankfully, this game is relatively short, especially if you're on your second playthrough, since you'd have a good idea of where to go. Oh, and once you have finished the game for the first time, you do gain access to unlockables. That spans from new weapons, which I haven't unlocked yet, to new skins. My personal favorite skin being the Hello Kitty skin. Look, I may be going through some weird-ass fucking shit right now, but at least I look cute. I absolutely love this game, and if I can compare it to something, I'd say it's like a more fast-paced, first-person Silent Hill. But as much as I love it, just like any other game, it does have a few flaws. I found that when you do things such as bring up your inventory or read maps, they tend to show up pretty small on higher resolutions, which of course can make certain things hard to read. That being said, you can easily fix this problem by changing your resolution to 720p, so it's not really a huge deal. Cry of Fear did a really good job at making me feel afraid, especially with how good it was at putting you in very tense situations, but admittedly, this game does tend to use a lot of jump scares. Don't get me wrong though, I don't mind when games use jump scares cause it can be an effective way of building up tension. That being said, when a game starts to use jump scares very frequently, that's when I find it to become really annoying. Thankfully, this game does not solely rely on jump scares to build up tension, but man, I did feel like the jump scares were getting overused the later I got into the game. Another thing that I noticed is that occasionally when I interacted with a door, instead of the game taking me to the next area, it would send me to where I just entered from? Eh? I don't know guys, but I don't think the game is supposed to do that. Due to how limited your inventory space is, you will have to drop items to make way for key items. Which that's fine, add some challenge to the game, no problem. Though dropping items can be risky because you can accidentally despawn the item if you do something that changes the map in some way. For example, I dropped a shotgun on the floor in this general area because I ran out of room for the key item that I needed. But as soon as I grab the key item, all of the power in the map goes out and the shotgun has disappeared. Where did it go? Who fucking knows, but I want it back, damn it! For the most part, this game is pretty linear, and I found it very easy to know which way I should be going, but there is one part that many people who have played the game would agree is their least favorite part. And honestly, yeah, I'm gonna have to agree with them. Eventually you come up to a part in the subway station where you need to find 2 fuses in order to unlock a door. Simple, right? But to find the fuses, you're going to have to backtrack to 2 different areas, one of them being back to the first part of the game. I found it really easy to get lost during this section, and although you can find a map that points you to where you need to go, I wish that you could take the map with you to make things way less confusing. For my final complaint, I found that occasionally I would get stuck on things in certain areas of the game, especially when tight spaces were involved. It is definitely not a huge problem, but I definitely found it to be quite annoying. I especially remember having this problem during the vertical platforming section of the game, where you have to climb out of a train that is hanging off of a ledge before it falls, which is a really cool idea and I still enjoyed it, but I found myself having to reset a few times because I'd get stuck on an object and couldn't get out. One of those times I ended up getting stuck on the exit, so, fuck me, I guess I'll fucking die then. Ta-ta, farewell, and bye-bye! Cry of Fear is an absolutely fantastic game. I love the atmosphere, the music, and the gameplay was very fun, and I still can't believe that a game with this amount of love and care put into it is also completely free. Unfortunately, this was the last project that Team 6 Scala has ever worked on, and to my knowledge, I do believe that the team has since disbanded. There has been talks of Andreas working on a remake for Cry of Fear in Unreal Engine, but unfortunately, I don't think that is still in production. It's been over 9 years since the release of Cry of Fear, and honestly, I still think it lives up to this day. I do wonder if Team 6 Scala or Andreas will come back to making horror games one day, but if they do, man, I'm sure it's gonna be fucking incredible. But anyway guys, thank you all for watching the video, hope you guys enjoyed, and I can't wait to see you all in the next one. Bye bye.